And most of you told me that you want me to do the pizza. Just wanted to remind myself how much it might cost, just in case I wanted to try out some. I mean, it's just pizza. How hard could it possibly be? We are doing this. Onto the sauce. The sauce is what we're going to be handling today. And okay, ideally you're supposed to have crushed tomatoes, tomato puree or tomato paste, depending on where you're from, and a bunch of spices and salt and yeah. But understandably, not all of us can get canned tomatoes, the ones that come, the whole ones that, or the crushed ones that come in a can. But what we do have are, the normal tomatoes that are sold in our markets. So that's definitely what we're going to work with, because we're trying as much as possible to bring our margins down with regards to expenditure. So, actually, you see how I've scooted you guys closer so that you can see my ever so handsome face. I want to show you guys what I've been doing with the tomatoes so far. I wanted to remove the skins. So this is basically what I've done. This is some hot water. It was a bit hot to begin with. It has drastically cooled down by now, but it has already served its purpose. So what I did basically was I took the tomatoes and I basically just made cuts on the skin. So don't go chopping up the entire tomato. Don't go just stabbing the thing. None of that business. None of that work. And if you have already done that, eat it. We don't throw food in this house. I just basically made cuts on the tomato and then I put them in the water was boiling. Then I just threw them in, and the skin just starts to curl up. And as you can see, you can even just remove it with your finger. Just in case you never knew how to peel tomatoes, that's what you do. You're probably asking me why we are skinning the tomatoes, and that is because I don't know if it's a thing with everyone, but it's a thing with me. I personally do not like the feel of tomato skins in my mouth when I'm eating. It's just, first of all, when you cook them up, they start to roll up, and then they start becoming these little threads, and they're in your mouth, and all of a sudden you're just reliving that scene from The Ring where this woman is just chucking hair from her mouth. It's a whole situation that I'm just not here for. So I'm removing the skin because I don't want them in the final product. So now my primary ingredients are ready. My primary ingredients are tomatoes and onions. Now I made 3 tomatoes, and then I cut up half of an onion, because if you guys watch the cheese video, which I highly encourage that you watch before you watch this, it's up here. It's a really interesting one. Now before I go on, I just wanted to show you guys something. Do you see how this specific tomato is not all the way red? That is going to bite me in the end. I want to strongly and highly encourage you guys, if you're going to do this, use tomatoes that are all the way red, and that are, in fact, it would even be, if you could get those ones that are a bit, not squishy to the point of being rotten, but those ones that are a bit just slightly squishy, get those ones. Try as much as possible to avoid the ones that are really, really firm, because this is going to kick you. Next step. Now the next step calls for a blender. Fortunately, I do have a blender in the vicinity. However, when I was coming up with this whole thing, I was just thinking, not everyone has a blender. Not everyone has access to a blender, and it's not necessarily on the list of necessities for most people. So in my mind, I was thinking, how is it possible for me to still be able to make the pizza and not have to use the blender? So I'm going to be trying that today. I don't necessarily have it all the way through in my mind, but we're going to work through this as we go. But I'm basically going to find a way to circumnavigate the use of a blender. Do you see? I used the word circumnavigate naturally in a sentence because I'm smart. Oh my God, this is why I don't have friends. So what I have decided to do is, I still have some of the water from the... Jesus Christ. I still have some of the water that I used to de-skin the tomatoes. I put aside a good amount of it. Don't throw it. You can just set it aside. You can use that maybe the next time you want to cook and you need to put in some water. Yeah, use that. Don't waste. No waste. Basically, I have a bit of the water here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to dice these into really small chunks, and I'll let them sit in the water and I'll put the water on the fire just so that I can get them a little mushy, so that I can get them to be crushable, because I want to try as much as possible to get them to that soupy consistency, thick soup, like a porridge of sorts. Yes. So this is our current situation. So I'm just going to plop them in there. And then also, because I want these to become tender as well, I know this looks disgusting, it's going to come through, trust me. So I'm going to put these in there as well, because I want them to get tender along with the tomatoes. You know, it just hit me that tomatoes really tend to become a bit of a nightmare to cook when you introduce water to them. So I'd kind of forgotten that. So maybe try and avoid that next time. Don't put them into the water. Try and just put them into the pot directly. No oil. Just put them into the pot directly. If you're going to put any water, just make it just like a few like droplets. So because I have that situation, what I'm going to do, I know how I'm going to get around it. I'm going to let the water evaporate, and once the water evaporates, what will be left will be just the tomato in its juice, and then it'll start to get tender. Do you see how it's cooked down almost to a porridge? Like this is what I was looking for. This is what I was hoping to achieve. Oh my god, why do I keep spilling things? Sorry. So basically this is what I was going for. Now you remember I was telling you about the tomatoes that don't cook through. This is what I was talking about. Next thing we're doing is we are going to fry the tomatoes and the onions. You just need a bit, you don't want too much. Yeah. So a bit of garlic and ginger paste going in there. That is what it looks like right now. You want to be a bit generous with this. So I'm going to put in about 2 tablespoons. Yeah. Thing is smoking. And if you're using tomato paste, like tomatoes just in general are very, very acidic. So you want to put in a teaspoon of sugar just to neutralize the acidity. Then this is where you put in your seasoning and your barrage of spices if you have them. You don't want to put in too much salt, because chances are your toppings are going to have a lot of salt. If it's sausages, they're going to have a lot of salt. If it's cheese, it's going to have a lot of salt. So you want to reduce the amount of salt you put in your sauce. A bit of basil. It's a really cool spice. It's not expensive at all. Actually, for most of the spices that I'm going to use in this, the highest it's going to go is going to be around like 65 to 75 shillings. It's not going to go higher than that. So I'm going to put in basil because I love how it tastes, and it goes really, really well with pizza, especially if you have actual basil leaves. It becomes really, really cool. Wow, that thing is really smoking. I can't do two things at the same time. Help me. So here's our water going in. Put in little by little as you stir. There you go. And then I'm going to put in my last spice. I'm just going to put in half a bay leaf. Half a bay leaf. These spices are pretty cheap, like 65 to 75 shillings, and you should be able to have them, and they make a world of difference in your food. This is what it looks like. Now you want to try as much as possible to let the water cook out so that it's not too runny as you're putting it on the rolled out pizza dough. Please behave and not allow the devil to use you. So there we have it. That's what it looks like on the inside. This is pretty much it. And that seals the deal with regards to the sauce. I'm going to leave this open. You want it to cool before you can refrigerate it. So that, I don't know, I just see my mom doing that. So that's why I do it. Monkey see, monkey do. yeah, so this is pretty much it. I know it's not the perfect marinara sauce. I know that if there was an Italian who was to watch this, they'd cringe till they were dead. But it's going to work. We did it without the blender. It came up to the consistency that we wanted. It's a win. So the next step is the dough.